exposed. A life-changing inheritance reveals the incredible hidden strength of a burden. Jake Thompson stood in the dim light of his auto repair shop, surrounded by the comforting scent of oil and gasoline. But that evening, despite the sounds of wrenches clattering and engines humming, a storm brewed within him. At 32, he felt like a weight dragging his family down, a burden his hard-working mother, a veteran fighting her own battles with PTSD, couldn't he afford. Each day, he toiled in the sweltering heat, calloused hands grappling with the machinery that told him he was skilled but never good enough. His brother Frank, slick and successful in the city, loomed large in Jake's mind. Whenever they spoke, which was rare, Frank's tales of business triumphs cast an even darker shadow over Jake's existence. The two couldn't be more different, and every success story Frank shared felt like a dagger to Jake's heart. He was rooted in Maplewood, isolated while the world around him thrived. Friday fish fries and local parades buzzed with life, but Jake found himself on the sidelines, weighed down by worry. Bills were piling up, and his mother's cries at night echoed in the quiet corners of their house, shadowed with memories of her service. Jake put on a brave face, but it took every ounce of strength to mask his anxiety. The comforting tales of heroism were often overshadowed by their harsh reality. Just as autumn leaves began to blanket the streets, change arrived unexpectedly, like a whisper on the wind. Jake received a letter revealing an inheritance he never knew existed, an old farm at the outskirts of town, once belonging to his late grandfather. Each word hit him like a tidal wave, awakening something deep within, a flicker of possibility accompanied by a fierce desire to reclaim his family's legacy. With renewed determination, Jake rallied his neighbors and friends. They poured over the farm, cleaning and mending, laughter erupting amidst the chaos. The land transformed before his eyes, not just in appearance, but in the connection it created among them. Together, they fought to turn the once-forgotten place into a community center where the weary could gather and the lost could heal. For the first time, Jake felt the threads of belonging knit around his heart. But just as hope ignited, the familiar cracked voice of his brother echoed back. Frank returned, his eyes gleaming with ambition, ready to exploit their family's history for profit. Tension filled the air, electrifying like the moment before a summer storm. Heated confrontations erupted, full of pent-up emotions. Jake saw the ambition in Frank's eyes, emotionless and cutthroat, while he offered warmth and compassion to the community. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Standing amidst a community that had become family, Jake felt the clash of dreams and expectations weighing down on his chest. Could he prove his worth? Could this farm become a sanctuary for healing and connection? Or would it fracture the fragile bridge he'd built with his brother? With every person leaning toward him, the pressure mounted, thick with doubt and an urgent longing for unity. The fate of the farm and his own self-worth hung in the balance, urging him to choose his path in the shadow of looming rivalry. The next chapter awaited, and Jake's heart raced as the community's eyes turned toward him, brimming with hope and anticipation. Jake held his breath as his friends and neighbors gathered around him, their expressions a mix of hope and expectancy. The community's support filled the air with warmth, yet the chill of impending confrontation with Frank lingered just out of sight like a thundercloud. "Jake, what is our next move?" one of his neighbors, Claire, asked, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear. The nearby barn was half cleaned. Hints of the beautiful community center, it could become shimmering with potential. Taking a moment, Jake looked around. The laughter and camaraderie warmed him, but he knew the weight of his brother's intentions. "I think we need to establish a plan. If we can show everyone the impact this center could have, it'll be harder for Frank to undermine us." Cheers erupted around him. But deep down, Jake's heart raced with uncertainty. Could his vision stand against his brother's ruthless ambition? As they planned, each idea unveiled bright possibilities for the farm: a playground for kids, a library room for after-school tutoring, and even a gathering space for support groups. He felt hopeful, buoyed by the passion in the eyes surrounding him. Children danced happily in the fields outside, and laughter drifted like music through the air, but the shadow of betrayal's past loomed ever closer. In the following days, Frank's calls grew more demanding. He swept into town like a storm, eyeing the farm with a speculative gleam as if it were nothing more than a business deal. Jake fought the urge to lash out, reminding himself that confronting Frank would only bring chaos. Then one evening, everything changed. Jake stood in the community center that was slowly taking shape, surrounded by the smell of fresh paint and the sound of hammers pounding. Suddenly, he spotted Frank's familiar car parked outside. A knot tightened in his stomach. "Jake," Frank called, his voice smooth but edged like a sharpened knife. "We need to talk about your little project." Jake clenched his fists, feeling the rising heat. "This isn't just a project, Frank. This is our legacy, a place for the community." Frank stepped closer, his confidence oozing over. "Your vision is charming, but it doesn't make money. You're messing with our family's valuable history. It's time you understood that." The pressure to keep his composure felt overwhelming. "I know how important it is, but you've always seen the dollar signs instead of the people. But what good is a crumbling homestead? It should be revitalized, renovated into apartments or a farmstay." "Get real, Jake." Frank shot back, muscles coiled tight under the harsh glow of the barn lights. "This is the future." For a moment, silence enveloped them, swallowing the space. Jake's heart pounded in his chest. He knew Frank would stop at nothing to get what he wanted. Every dollar means something different to you. But this community, these people he started, but Frank cut him off. They don't understand economics. They just want a pie-in-the-sky dream. He sneered. Jake's resolve hardened. "Dreams build families, Frank. They pull communities together. I will not let you rip that apart." Frustration built as he watched Frank's expression shift, curiosity sparking behind his eyes. It was the moment Jake realized this conflict was about more than just the farm. It was about proving his worth, finding his strength amidst the storm of doubt. "I'll fight for this," Jake declared. "Not just for me, but for everyone who believes in it." "Then let us see who wins, brother," Frank replied, a sinister smirk playing on his lips. As Frank departed, Jake turned back toward the supportive faces in the community center, feeling a surge of adrenaline. Hope surged alongside the growing fear of what was to come. He glanced into the distance where the setting sun melted into shades of orange and purple, a reminder that even the darkest storms pass. With his brother plotting a corporate takeover and his community relying on him, Jake stood at a crossroads. How could he protect the heart of Maplewood from the allure of profit? The stakes had never felt higher, and every moment counted. What would be the next step in his fight? The answer waited just beyond the horizon, as new alliances and unforeseen challenges loomed. Jake's mind raced as he returned to the group. The laughter that had filled the barn moments ago felt stifled now, heavy with the weight of his confrontation with Frank. He could feel their eyes on him, filled with expectation. Each friendly face was a reminder of why he had to fight. "Are you okay, Jake?" Claire asked, her voice a gentle anchor in the storm of his thoughts. He nodded, though inside, uncertainty gnawed at him. "I am, but we have to step up our game. Frank isn't going to back down. If anything, he'll push harder." The community's energy sparked with renewed purpose. They spread out to organize work shifts, gather materials, and reach out to other townsfolk. Jake felt the momentum shift like the light after a storm. With every plan they solidified, confidence began to replace his dread. Over the next few weeks, they poured their hearts into the community center. Mornings turned into evenings as they painted walls, laid down floors, and shared stories. A sense of belonging filled the air. Jake couldn't remember the last time he felt so connected. As the big reveal day approached, excitement bubbled amongst everyone. They planned a celebration to unveil the center, inviting the entire town. Claire kept prodding him to give a speech, but he shook the thought off. Public speaking wasn't his forte, especially not after facing Frank. But deep down, he knew this was his moment. One afternoon, while setting up chairs for the unveiling, Jake noticed a small group approaching from the edge of the field. It was a few of the older residents from the town, faces drawn and lined with worry. He waved them over. "Everything all right?" he asked, concern threading through his words. One of the elders, Mrs. Hawkins, stepped forward, her voice trembling. "Jake, dear, we're grateful for everything you're doing here," but she hesitated, glancing at the others. "We're worried about Frank. He has been spreading rumors, trying to sway people against the center. He believes his community doesn't need another project." Jake's stomach twisted. What kind of rumors? That familiar glint of determination ignited within him. In that moment, it was clear Frank was not just a brother trying to protect a family legacy. He was spreading division. "We can't let him undermine what we built. We need to show unity." As Mrs. Hawkins spoke, sharing her stories of how the town had come together in past struggles, Jake felt the heavy cloud of fear lift just a bit. He decided right then that at the unveiling, he would not only share the vision for the center, but also honor the collective strength of Maplewood. When the day finally arrived, the community gathered in droves. The sun shone bright, illuminating their faces, and laughter echoed off the newly painted walls. But even amidst the festivities, Jake kept an eye out for Frank. He knew a storm was brewing. He stepped up to the podium with his heart racing. The crowd's expectant hush encouraged him. He clasped the edges of the podium and felt the warmth of his friends behind him. "Today, just about the community center," he began, his voice steadying. "It's about who we are together." Before he could finish, a shadow loomed at the edge of the crowd. Jake's eyes locked onto Frank, who stood with a chilling smirk. The confrontation was about to reach another breaking point. Was Frank planning to ruin the celebration? The air crackled with tension, and Jake's heart raced as he watched his brother step forward. Would this day end in triumph or disaster? The answer hung in the air, and a shiver of anticipation washed over him. Jake's heart hammered in his chest as he caught Frank's eye. The smirk on his brother's face sent chills down his spine, but there was no turning back now. The crowd was waiting for him, their trusting faces amplifying the weight of the moment. He inhaled deeply, feeling the warm summer air fill his lungs, then exhaled slowly, ready to continue. "Together, we've created something special here," Jake shouted, the inflection in his voice rising with determination. "This center isn't just bricks and mortar. It's a symbol of our resilience. We've fought through hard times, and today we celebrate our unity." A smattering of applause bubbled up from the crowd, but Frank stepped forward, breaking the momentum like a cold wind cutting through a sunny day. "Unity? Is that what you call this? A defiance against our heritage?" He laughed harshly, his voice carrying through the gathered townsfolk. "You're wasting your time. Everyone knows this isn't going to work." "Stop," Claire interjected, stepping up to the side of the podium. She was visibly shaken, but there was fire in her eyes. "You've been spreading lies, Frank. Why do you want to tear us apart? This community needs this center. With it, we can finally grow and thrive." The crowd murmured, a ripple of support stretching across the faces Jake recognized and loved all the people who stood beside him. Doubt began to flicker in Frank's expression, but he wasn't done yet. "Thrive? By turning our backs on everything we've built? You think this changes anything? Maybe it's time for a change, Frank." Jake stood taller, feeling the surge of energy from Claire and the crowd propelling him. "Our history is important. It's part of who we are, but we cannot let it keep us prisoners. We need space to grow and adapt." Frank's brow furrowed, frustration creeping onto his face. "This is what they call progress. A project hatched from your idealism? It's a step towards the future." Claire shot back, indignant. "It's about coming together rather than being divided by fears of what we'll lose." A ripple of agreement surged through the crowd. Jake felt their hope their belief, and it ignited something powerful within him. This is a place for everyone, Frank. We are not erasing our past, but building upon it. We're not turning our backs. We're opening our arms. Frank's expression shifted. A flicker of uncertainty crossed his face. The crowd's growing excitement created a whirlwind of emotion, a tangible unity that brought Jake's vision to life. As he looked out at the horizon of supportive faces, each sharing in this moment, he knew they could prevail together. But then, like a thunderstorm breaking, Frank's facade cracked. You think I'll just stand back and let you ruin this place? You don't know what I'm capable of. It was a warning, dark and heavy. Yet there was something more profound, a tremor of vulnerability beneath his bravado. The moment stretched on, filled with tension. Jake felt his heart hammering, but he met his brother's gaze, searching for the man he once knew beneath the anger. Frank, this isn't just about you or me. It's about everyone we care about. Don't let fear control you. Join us. He could taste the possibility in the air, the chance for reconciliation, for understanding. But as he opened his mouth to extend a hand, silence fell. The crowd held its breath, waiting with bated anticipation. Would Frank accept the offer or dig his heels deeper into his fury? As the silence loomed, Jake's hopes hung in the balance, each heartbeat echoing with uncertainty. But suddenly, as if a storm had gathered, Frank turned sharply, frustration radiating off him. You want unity, brother? You'd better be prepared for the fight of your life. Jake felt a chill run through him. This battle was far from over. What was Frank planning next? The tension hung in the air, heavy with unanswered questions, and Jake wondered how far his brother would go to claim victory. Jake's heart sank as Frank's words rang out, echoing through the cooling evening air. The tension was palpable, twisting like a serpent in the pit of his stomach. Everyone was staring, now faces filled with concern and confusion, uncertain of what Frank might do next. The crowd began to whisper amongst themselves, anxieties crackling like electricity. A few people stepped forward, clearly torn. Claire reached out, her hand gripping Jake's arm, a silent plea for strength. He turned to her, fighting to keep his own fear at bay. Frank, what are you talking about? Jake asked, his voice steady but low. You don't have to make this harder than it is. Just talk to me. Frank's laugh was hollow, a sound that sent shivers down Jake's spine. Talk. You think this is about talking? He advanced a step toward Jake, eyes ablaze with defiance. I've watched you squander everything, your dreams, our family legacy, by clinging to this idea of progress. I want to let you destroy what matters. Everything matters in its own way, Jake replied, heart racing, but holding on to the past blindly isn't right either. We've built our lives here. It doesn't mean we can't grow. Frank's fists clenched, nails digging deeply into his palms. Maybe growth means doing the hard things, Jake. Maybe it means standing your ground against those who threaten your way of life. The crowd shuffled uncomfortably. Tension wrapped around them like a vice, tightening with every word. Jake sensed the weight of his brother's challenge, a direct invitation into a conflict he never wanted. But now he couldn't back down. Then let us find a way to protect what's dear to us together. Jake urged, desperation creeping into his voice. We don't have to sacrifice each other. This community can flourish without tearing us apart. We can build, not just for ourselves, but for everyone too. Frank's expression quivered. A fleeting moment of something softer flickering in his eyes. Was it doubt? Regret? But before Jake could hope, it vanished behind a hard glare. You don't get it, do you? It's too late for dialogue. You borrowed against our legacy to finance this so-called progress. I'm here to claim what's rightfully ours. The crowd gasped, a tide of murmurs rising like a wave. Faces turned different shades. A mixture of fear and anger rippled among them. Claire leaned closer to Jake, her voice trembling. What does he mean? I don't know, Jake replied, a disturbing realization dawning on him. But I will find out. Frank stepped forward aggressively, raising a hand. You want to fight? Then let's lay it all bare. I'll expose everything you've hidden to make your dream come true. This center? It's built on lies. Each word dripped with venom, fueling the fire, igniting fear inside Jake. A bead of sweat trickled down Jake's forehead. The stakes were higher than he'd anticipated. Uncertainty tugged at his resolve. The weight of community expectations was heavy on his shoulders, and all he could think of was the message he wanted to send. With a deep breath, he addressed the crowd. Listen, everyone, this isn't just about Frank and me. It's about the truth and how we want to uphold our values. What do we stand for? Do we allow fear and anger to guide us? Or do we work together, no matter the challenges? The crowd hesitated, glancing between the brothers. Faces stared back, scrutinizing the unfolding drama. As Jake searched for encouragement, he felt a tug from the deepest part of him. He could not let fear win, not now. But the question lay heavy. How much truth was he willing to reveal to protect what they had built? With a determined gaze, he prepared for whatever came next. As he faced Frank, he wondered what corners of their past would be brought to light next, and at what cost? The air felt thick, charged with dread. Jake stood firm, but inside, fear clawed at him. Frank's words heavy, damning, hung in the air, threatening to suffocate everything Jake had worked for. He scanned the faces of the crowd, trying to find a semblance of hope, but most looked troubled, eyes wide and searching. Frank, Jake said, his voice firmer, yet gentle, you don't have to do this. We could talk. You know that. Talk. Frank spat. What good will that do when you've already made your choice? You've chosen progress over family, Jake. You've turned your back on us. I won't let you erase our history and the land that raised us just to chase some dream of yours. The crowd shifted again, a murmur of agreement surfacing. Jake felt it brushing against him, cold as a winter wind. For a moment, he was the scared little brother again, the one who always tried to please Frank, the one who still fought against shadows of doubt. I'm not erasing our past, Jake shouted, trying to shove the fear down. I'm building for our future. This community has struggled for too long. We can grow together. Isn't that what Dad wanted? There was an instant of silence, then a collective intake of breath. Jake felt hope flicker inside him, but it was quickly smothered by the flame in Frank's eyes. You think you can hide behind our father's name? The truth is, he would be ashamed of you. You've betrayed everything we stood for, Frank yelled, his voice breaking, revealing a glimpse of the hurt beneath his anger. Jake's heart twisted at the accusation. Every moment they had shared, every memory of laughter and stories, pressed upon him. He had always respected Frank. But this wasn't the brother he knew. Let me be clear, Frank, Jake said slowly, carefully choosing his words. I will not let fear dictate my life. I will not be afraid of progress. We can honor our roots and still move forward. Claire squeezed his arm tighter, her brow furrowed. Jake, don't push him. We need to be careful. But Jake wasn't ready to retreat. I want to be silent while you threaten everything we built. If you want to know what was hidden, then let us uncover it together. Let us find the truth. Suddenly, Frank stepped back, and the anger that had burned behind his eyes darkened. You really have no idea what you're asking for, do you? He said quietly, almost dangerously calm. You want to lay it all bare? What if I reveal the truth about how our family has made its money? The secrets from our past? Jake? The crowd gasped. The weight of Frank's threat sent a ripple of panic through the air. Whispers of what secrets? And what does he mean? Echoed in hushed tones. Jake swallowed hard, his stomach twisted. What are you talking about, Frank? But Frank's lips curled into a sneer, no longer holding back. I'll show them, Jake. I'll show them everything about you, about me, and about the lies we created to keep our family afloat. Jake's pulse raced as he tried to grasp the gravity of Frank's words. It felt like a cliff was suddenly crumbling beneath him, threatening to drop him into a chasm of unbearable truths. Frank, don't. Think about the community, about your own family, Jake pleaded, desperation lacing his voice. Frank smirked. Family? You've already made your choice about what family means. Get ready to face the truth you've been hiding from. I will not be the only one exposed when this crumbles around you. Jake felt the blood rush from his face. Uncertainty loomed like a storm cloud, heavy and threatening. Anger, grief, and confusion collided inside him, leaving him reeling. What else did he not know? And in that moment, he realized, sometimes the fight isn't just about what's at stake today. It's also about what shadows from the past are waiting to emerge. As Jake braced for an inevitable confrontation, he wondered, was he ready to face all the truths that might destroy the very fabric of his being? The crowd shifted uneasily, the atmosphere thick with tension. Faces were painted with disbelief, glances exchanged like secret confessions. Jake felt the weight of their collective gaze, the pressure mounting like a coiled spring ready to snap. "Frank, please," he urged again, his voice a mixture of desperation and resolve. "We're brothers. This isn't just about us. It's about everyone who relies on this community. Don't do this." But Frank stood there, arms crossed, the anger in his stance only rivaled by the hurt etched into his features. "You've forgotten the second we decided to chase these dreams of yours, Jake. We always had each other's backs, but now," he shook his head, the fight in his eyes giving way to something darker. "You're up against something bigger than you think." "Bigger?" Jake challenged. "What, living in the past? The truth is, the world has changed. People are struggling. We can't stay stagnant just because it's comfortable." Frank took a step forward, his eyes narrowing. "Comfortable? That's your perspective. What if all this progress comes at a cost? You're talking about growth, but ignoring the foundation it's built on. Be prepared to see what you're tearing down." Jake felt his heart race, adorned with the weight of regret. He thought about his father, the lessons imparted through summer evenings spent on the porch, their voices mingling with the summer breeze. He thought about how their father would often say, "Change is good as long as you hold on to what's important." "Don't you remember how hard Dad worked for this place?" Jake said, barely holding back tears. "He wanted better for us. He believed in a future where we could have both honor our roots while planting new ones." "Do you really think he'd want you to exploit everything he built?" Frank shouted, surfacing the anger that had been simmering beneath the surface. "You're naive, brother, and it's about time someone made you see it." Jake's breath hitched. "You think this is about me? That I want to take away our legacy? I'm trying to create a future where our family and our history can flourish together. Don't push me away." Frank's laugh was dry, devoid of humor. "You're a fool if you believe you can do that without getting your hands dirty. People will want answers, Jake. And if you're not careful, you might just find their fingers pointing right back at you." The crowd grew restless, unsure of what to believe. Jake could feel the tension crackling in the air, the whispers of suspicion creeping in like fog. Every second felt like an eternity, their expectant eyes waiting for something to unravel, something explosive. "Enough," Claire finally hollered, stepping forward. Her voice cut through the chaos, demanding attention. "What do you hope to gain from this? This is tearing us apart, and don't act like you're doing it for the community." Frank glanced at her, the faintest flicker of uncertainty crossing his features. But it vanished in an instant, replaced by an impenetrable mask of determination. "It's not my fault you refuse to see the truth. You've created an illusion, Jake, but illusions can't last. I'll expose the lies, and then you'll be left with nothing." Jake's heart sank. "You can't just throw our family's past under the bus. You'll destroy us all in the name of what? Revenge? Call it what you will. I'm merely unveiling the reality of what has always been lurking beneath the surface," he replied coldly. "And it's going to take more than brotherly affection to weather this storm." As Frank turned away, Jake felt a tide of emotion wash over him. Fear, anger, and a burgeoning sense of regret. He thought about the risk, the sacrifice that lay ahead, and a single question echoed in his mind. Was he prepared for what Frank was about to unleash? The crowd, once a sea of support, felt more like a jury now, their trust hanging by a thread. Instinctively, Jake took a deep breath and steadied himself. He needed to prepare, not just for the truth about his family, but for the battle that was about to unfold within himself. A realization struck him as Frank's shadow loomed. larger, a question ready to rewrite everything they had ever known. What happens when the past meets the choices of the present, and some decisions threaten to change not just their lineage, but their very identities? The crowd grew restless, whispers rising like ripples across the lake. Jake could almost feel their expectations weighing down on him. There was so much at stake, not just for him and Frank, but for everyone who had called this community home. He glanced around, picking out familiar faces, neighbors who helped him patch his roof, friends who tried to lift him during hard times. They all depended on the stability that their family had built over generations. "Lisa," he called out, spotting his childhood friend at the edge of the crowd. Her eyes reflected the confusion and concern of many around her. "Can you back me up? Tell them what this place means to us." Lisa took a step forward, her voice shaky but resolute. "We all know what this community stands for. We've laughed, cried, and grown up here. Jake wants to innovate, not destroy. We need to give him a chance." Frank's snort cut through the fragile atmosphere. "And at what cost, Lisa? You think turning this place into a theme park or whatever he's dreaming of is going to help in the long run? You're abandoning our heritage for a fleeting notion of progress." The thought hung heavily in the air as people began to murmur among themselves. Jake felt his heart racing. The sharp divide between his brother and him echoed all too closely to their father's last moments. Suddenly, those summer afternoons felt like distant memories overshadowed by this stark reality. "Don't you see? Innovation does not mean you wipe everything clean," Jake pleaded, voice strained. "I'm trying to include what we built here. Have you forgotten the townsfolk who fought hard just to keep the lights on? They need more than nostalgia. They need hope." Frank shifted, the muscles in his jaw tightening. "Hope? Or just hollow dreams? You think they'll follow you on this path without questions? You wanted to be an entrepreneur, Jake, but what if it means trampling on everything that was laid before you?" Maybe Frank was right, fear wrapped up with uncertainty, and the echo of their father's principles clawing at the back of his mind wanted to drown out every rational thought. But then something clicked within him. He had spent too long living in his brother's shadow. This was about breaking free. "Look around us," Jake shouted, gesturing wildly toward the crowd. "They deserve a future they can believe in. We owe it to the people who believed in our father's dream. Isn't it time we stop living in his dream and start pursuing our own?" His words hung in the air, a challenge framed in desperation. The crowd buzzed, drawn in by his passion. He felt a stirring energy growing, glancing at Claire, whose eyes lit up with understanding. She stepped closer, solidarity in her stance. "You're both right and wrong," she said. "Change is necessary, but so is growth that respects our history. It's about finding a middle ground, not a battleground." Frank's expression shifted, incredulity flickering at the edges. "You think you could just fix this mess by playing nice?" He scoffed, but there was a tremble in his voice. Yes, we can," Jake yelled, his heart pounding in unison with the crowd's rising hope. "But first, we have to confront whatever past you're so desperate to hide from. Let us explore the truths together rather than tearing each other apart." The air crackled with an electric mix of excitement and fear. Would they rally behind him? Would Frank listen? Or would this be the beginning of a family war that none of them wanted to ignite? The collective murmur of the crowd had started to grow, a beat building to a crescendo, when suddenly a sharp voice pierced through the timeline of their arguments, a voice from behind Jake. "And what if our past isn't the paint of a canvas, but rather the chains that bind us?" Everyone turned to see Old Man Parker, a seldom-seen historian of their town. His weathered face brought silence like a deep breath before the plunge. "What truth are we speaking of? What fear do those chains hold?" Jake's heart raced anew. They were on the brink of uncovering something deeper than he imagined. What did the old man know that could shake the very foundation of their plans? And could he truly face what that meant from all? Old Man Parker took a steadying breath, the weight of years marking the lines on his face. The crowd hung on his words like leaves clinging to branches in a fierce wind. "You're all looking to reshape the future, But have you ever delved into the past that shapes you? This community has its secrets, and when we forget those, we risk losing the foundation upon which we stand. Jake's heart thundered in his chest, confusion and determination battling within him. He turned to Frank, whose eyes narrowed in suspicion. Secrets? What secrets? He demanded, unwilling to accept the notion that history might hold the key to their diverging futures. It's not just about what you want for the future. Parker continued, his voice rising. It's about understanding where you came from. Generations have sacrificed for this land their sweat, their tears, they V-shaped it. You think innovation and progress truly come without honor? Claire stepped forward, her brow furrowed with concern. What do you mean, old man Parker? Is there something we don't know? Something that could change everything? The old man nodded slowly. There's a story about the original founders of this town, and they bound themselves by an oath. An oath to protect this land from devastation, traditional farming wiped out by greed, industrial development that bulldozes history without a care. His voice dropped, the air thick with reverence. But there are those who would stand behind that promise, even now. Jake turned to face the crowd, feeling as if the whispering wounds of history were echoing around him. What's at stake? He asked, his voice quelling the rising tide of murmurs. If we're willing to innovate, we need to honor the past. But if that means uncovering hard truths, then maybe this is our moment. He caught Lisa's gaze, pleading silently, and she stepped beside him, ready to support him once more. This isn't just about buildings or profits. It's about our relationships, our responsibility both to our ancestors and to the future generations who will come after us. Frank looked rattled, uncertainty creeping into his expression. Jake seized the moment. We need to rally together. Let's find out what these secrets are. He paused, his heart racing. Let us dig deep and understand the legacy that's been left for us. It's time to work together, not against each other if we are to preserve what truly matters. The crowd, a swirling mix of anxiety and intrigue, began to murmur amongst themselves. A shared curiosity sparked. Collective hope glimmered in their eyes. They wanted to know. They needed to know. Old man Parker nodded slowly, the flicker of a smile appearing on his lips. It's not too late, but you need to recognize that sometimes you must confront your fears to truly understand your strength. A wave of realization washed over Jake, igniting a fire of determination within him. What if this hidden past held the key to their future? They needed to uncover the layers of their history, to reclaim their narrative instead of merely reshaping it. Then let us do it, he called out, fueled by excitement and dread. Let us meet again, share what we discover. Together, we can ensure our family's legacy, just preserved it thrives. However, just as the enthusiasm surged, Frank's skeptical voice broke through. And what if the truths we uncover are better left hidden? The question hung in the air like a shadow, beckoning them into the unknown. Would they dare confront whatever history had laid before them? Or would they stumble into secrets so deep they could fracture them all? Jake swallowed hard, uncertain but resolute. This was only the beginning, and the path ahead was more treacherous than he could have imagined. The air was electric as Jake stood before the crowd, adrenaline coursing through his veins. Frank was louder than ever, his presence looming over the event like San Francisco fog. They had just unearthed something haunting, gems and shadows intertwined. That's exactly it, Frank. By embracing every part of our family's history, we can reshape the future. Jake shouted, searching the faces of the people he loved. Hope and confusion danced within their eyes, waiting for clarity. Who says we're even ready for that? Frank shot back, his voice low but tinged with anger. Do you think history won't haunt us? Secrets aren't just memories. They're chains that bind. Jake swallowed hard. The tug-of-war between them was palpable, but he knew he had to press on. Then let us face it together. We owe it to ourselves and this community. The crowd murmured in agreement, their eyes shifting between the two brothers. Old man Parker's words echoed in Jake's mind. He needed to find the truth, not just for the guidelines of progress, but to heal the fractures between him and Frank. Everyone deserves a chance to grow. And Jake S. right. Change doesn't erase our past, it solidifies it. Claire stepped forward, her voice crystal clear. How can we band together if we keep shutting down opportunities? Let us reshape our narrative, one that builds bridges, not walls. As Claire spoke, Jake saw recognition stir among the townsfolk. There was something uniting them. They were all there for each other. Every event they shared, every hardship they faced, it resonated deep within him. But Frank crossed his arms tighter, his expressions shifting between contempt and pain. And if you dig and find things you don't want to hear, what then? You may end up losing more than just the trust of his community. Fear abetted but lingered, sparking a new resolve inside Jake. Then let us find out. We can't run from what has happened. We owe it to our father, to each other. There was a chorus of nods, murmurs of support filling the air. Old Man Parker stepped forward, weighty with the knowledge that could alter their futures. We're standing on the shoulders of generations. We must uncover this story together. With renewed courage, Jake faced Frank. It's time to stop hiding behind our father's name. Let us look each other in the eye and accept the past. Only then can we set the future straight. Frank shifted on his feet, uncertainty creeping into his eyes. For a brief moment, vulnerability flickered across his face. And what if the truth dissolves everything we built? Who are we then? Then we rebuild it from the ground up, Jake asserted, his voice carrying the weight of every tear, every ounce of pain shared in the community. Together, with each passing moment, the crowd began to shift. Whispers turned into agreement, faces brightening with newfound clarity. They were tired of the shadows his brother cast, ready to embrace the illuminating light of unity. Suddenly, one of the town elders named Mr. Jenkins stepped forward, carrying a faded, yellow document. I kept this for years. It speaks of our origins, our promises as a community. The crowd hushed, the air thick with anticipation. That document was a piece of their story, their foundation. Suddenly, everything felt real, tangible. This talks of the oath, Parker added, excitement in his voice. An oath to bring strength to families, caring for this land and each other. If we can rediscover that conviction, then we can truly thrive. The energy transformed as Jake felt the awakening of history floral in the air, stretching its arms around them. For the first time, he could envision a path bathed in hope, illuminated by their combined light. Frank, Jake said, his voice low but loud enough for a response. Can't you see what we're building here? We can remember who we are and also create something new. Slowly, Frank's hard demeanor started to crack. Old feelings, the ties of family, the memories surfaced. Bit by bit, he started to see what was possible if they embraced their roots and ambitions. Fine, Frank replied, eyes glistening, with something akin to acceptance. But know this, if this doesn't lead to true unity, I won't face the fallout alone. It was a tentative bridge, but it was a bridge nonetheless. The crowd erupted into applause, voices rising like a summer storm. They could hear the harmony, every cheer colored with passion for their home. With hearts full, Jake turned to his neighbors, feeling vibrancy pulsate throughout. This was not just a fight for the farm or the center, but a collective journey toward healing and the beginning of a new legacy. You've all shown up for Maplewood. Together, we can reshape the future, he proclaimed, hope filling him to the brim, a radiant smile on his face. And in that moment, Jake finally realized he was no longer weighed down by the burdens of his past or his brother's achievements. Instead, he stood on the firm ground of unity, ready to unfurl the family legacy into its brightest chapter. As laughter and cheers surrounded him, he felt a wave of warmth and authenticity, a true rebirth for them all. Jake beamed, heart overflowing with gratitude. The storm that had threatened their unity delivered not destruction, but renewal. And he knew that family in all its chaotic beauty was stronger when surrounded by love. Now was the moment they could embrace every scar and every dream, merging them into something greater. Instead of fractures, they had found connection. And from that day forward, together as family and community, they would rewrite their story with every brushstroke, a legacy rooted in love, healed through courage, and destined for transformation. But wait, this is the moment to show your support. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment below your reactions and feelings about this emotional ending. And share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. You need to subscribe now. Don't wait not even one more second to share. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.